Pavel Niazev, Deputy Director of the Russian Foreign Ministry's Foreign Policy Planning Department. The BRICS countries are working on establishing a new reserve currency to better serve their economic interests. The new currency will be based on a basket of the 5 nation blocs currencies: the RMB Yuan of China, the Russian Ruble, the Indian Rupee, the Brazilian Real, and the South African Rand. But why would they require a new currency? How will the new currency function? And how will it benefit the world economy? Stay tuned and be kept up to date. Remember that subscribing and activating the bell notification feature will make you stay up to date with business, history, international relations, geopolitics, and world affairs shaping the global climate and our civilization. Now, why the need for a new BRICS plus currency? If there has been one significant change in the global economy over the last several years, it has been the gradual erosion of belief in the US dollar's indefinite supremacy. The international community is increasingly debating the likely changes in the global financial system's configuration, with scenarios ranging from a bipolar system dominated by the dollar-yuan duopoly to various multipolar scenarios involving, among other things, the creation of a BRICS reserve currency. And it is the prospect of the creation of R5, the provisional name for the would-be BRICS currency, as all BRICS currencies begin with the letter R, and that is shifting the focus of the increasingly heated global debate. The BRICS countries have increased their cooperation and intend to change the dollar-dominated financial system. Within BRICS, Russia and China are spearheading de-dollarization efforts to protect their interests stemming from their geopolitical rivalry with the US, as well as to mitigate the risk of future sanctions against them. India, Brazil, and South Africa have backed BRICS statements on changing the global financial system and expanding opportunities for the use of local currencies in international trade. All BRICS members have taken steps to de-dollarize their economies and increase their independence in the global financial system. The primary reason for developing an SDR-like basket currency for BRICS nations is to challenge the US dollar's hegemony and to establish their sphere of influence and unit of currency within that sphere. It is unclear whether all BRICS members are willing to transfer foreign reserves in order to develop this new sphere of influence. De-dollarization is a shared interest and priority for all BRICS countries in order to diversify and reduce the risk of exogenous shocks and currency shocks caused by the US dollar. However, while BRICS member states intend to protect their global financial interests by developing a reserve currency, over-reliance on the US dollar poses challenges that could make such an idea a distant reality. So how can BRICS go about the creation of the new currency? The issue of establishing a BRICS reserve currency has gained prominence in recent months, following President Putin's announcement that such a currency was being discussed. While the debate over the possibility of creating such a reserve currency is still in its early stages in Russia and around the world, the implications of such a move by the BRICS could have far-reaching consequences for the global financial system. Initially, the Volde Club proposed a new reserve currency based on a basket of BRICS countries' currencies in 2018. The idea was to create an SDR-type currency basket composed of BRICS countries' national currencies, as well as potentially some of the other currencies of the BRICS plus Circle economies. The BRICS national currencies were chosen because they were among the most liquid currencies in emerging markets. The new reserve currency's name, R5 or R5+, was inspired by the first letters of the BRICS currencies, all of which begin with the letter R, that is, Real, Ruble, Rupee, Renminbi, and Rand. The share of the Chinese renminbi in the R5 currency basket may be initially set at a relatively high level in order to capitalize on the Chinese currency's already advanced reserve status. This proportion may be gradually reduced in the future as new EM national currencies are added. Outside of the BRICS economies, some potential candidates for inclusion in the R5+ currency basket include the Singapore dollar and the UAE dirham. The high volatility of EM currencies is one of the potential risks associated with their use as reserves. The basket mechanism of the BRICS reserve currency will allow for some of this volatility to be reduced by averaging out the exchange rate dynamics of currencies that follow different market trends, whereas the currencies of Russia, South Africa, and Brazil follow the commodity cycle. Commodity importers such as India and China do not. Importantly, given the enormous potential for de-dollarization, the scope for employing the new reserve currency in the global economy is substantial. The new BRICS reserve currency can work in tandem with the stronger role played by BRICS national currencies to capture a larger share of the global pie of currency transactions. This expanded role can gradually be expanded from servicing foreign trade transactions to facilitating investment flows throughout the developing world. According to the original R5 concept developed by the Volday Club in 2018, one possible venue for increasing the use of national currencies and the BRICS reserve currency could be the establishment of a platform for regional development banks, of which the BRICS economies are members. A platform of this type could create a portfolio of common/integration projects that could be funded in national currencies. However, obtaining this currency would not be without difficulties. Many arguments against the R5 currency are based on the fact that the BRICS do not form an optimal currency area, or OCA, and that the intensity of intra-BRICS trade should be much higher in order to allow for the creation of a common currency. The trends observed in recent years point to a significant increase in intra-BRICS trade, with bilateral trade turnover across China and Brazil exceeding $135 billion in 2021 and more than $150 billion in 2022, posting 5 years of consecutive records. Across Brazil and India, reaching $11.5 billion in 2021, indicating a growth of more than 60% and approaching the target of $15 billion set for 2022. And across Russia and India, exceeding $31 billion in 2020. Going forward, the share of South-South or intra-BRICS plus trade is likely to grow as developing economies capitalize on the substantial potential in mutual trade. Furthermore, there are no plans to launch a common currency to replace the national currencies at this time. Rather than the somewhat misguided focus on the OCA commandments, it may be more pertinent to consider some of the less explored questions surrounding the R5 project's future. The first and most obvious question is, why would a monopoly be preferable to competition in the world of international finance? Wouldn't the global community benefit far more from greater choice among a growing number of reserve currencies, as well as more countries competing and improving their economic policies to make their monetary units more appealing to other economies? A related question is the allocation of reserve currency spoils resulting from the dollar's exorbitant privilege. If these monopoly proceeds cannot be taxed and redistributed back to the global community, should not there be a policy of benign neglect with regard to efforts to build own payment and currency systems in the global south that are sanction-free? And from an economic standpoint, what is wrong with countries developing a currency system that is not subject to politicization or sanctions, especially if the new currency includes explicit guarantees that such restrictions will not be imposed? Another aspect of R5 that has received little attention thus far is the layer of BRICS-related financial institutions that could support the launch of such a currency, including through liquidity and market making. The tandem of the new development bank and the contingency reserve arrangement, BRICS CRA, is at the heart of this network of financial institutions. It has the capability to design and implement coordinated de-dollarization strategies that involve greater use of national currencies and R5 over the long term. Then there are the BRICS member national and regional development banks/funds, such as the Eurasian Development Bank, FOCEM, SDF, and others. There are also regional financing arrangements in which BRICS plus countries participate, that is, EFSD, FLAR, and CMIM or Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, which, according to IMF estimates, have more resources than the IMF itself. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the BRICS plus countries may establish a common platform for sovereign wealth funds. According to the Sovereign Wealth Fund Institute, the developing economies of the Global South account for 9 of the 10 largest sovereign wealth funds in terms of assets under management. China Investment Corporation has $1.35 trillion in assets under management, and Abu Dhabi Investment Authority has nearly $0.8 trillion in AUM. The total assets under the management of the top 10 SUS from the Global South exceeds $6 trillion. In 2022, the latter figure will be greater than the combined GDP of the United Kingdom and France. To be sure, the creation of a common BRICS currency will not be a magic wand that will solve all of the Global South's economic woes. More emphasis will need to be placed on the development of deep financial markets that provide favorable conditions for long-term investments. Greater trade and investment liberalization, including capital account openness, will also need to be prioritized. However, as with other countries and regions, including the EU, the launch of a common currency project may act as a disciplining mechanism, improving the quality of economic policy. Summarily, if successful, the introduction of a new reserve currency will have a transformative effect on the international financial system. In managing their reserve holdings, the world's central banks are facing a significant shortage of reserve currencies. In this regard, the emergence of new reserve currencies from EM economies will broaden the options for diversifying reserve holdings and reducing the vulnerabilities associated with reliance on a small number of currencies. As a result, the R5 project could become one of the most significant contributions of emerging markets to the development of a more secure international financial system. And now let us hear from you. Do you think the BRICS currency will come to fruition? And will the BRICS alliance achieve complete de-dollarization? Will the BRICS currency rise to global dominance as the US dollar did? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. And if you have any suggestions for us, then comment below. And that concludes today's discussion. Kindly return the favor by liking, subscribing, and activating the bell notification feature will make you stay up to date with business, history, international relations, geopolitics, and world affairs shaping the global climate and our civilization.